my whole thing right now is about being unstoppable, about really reaching inside and grabbing something that's in there that you might not know is there.
The more fear you feel before doing that, the better it is when you overcome it.
20% of the stuff that you do will create the biggest changes in your life.
Alrighty, welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable show. My name is Todd Pierce.
My name's Dean Martin.
And we're here with Mr. Michael Crossland, a legendary man who's going to share some amazing snippets today. Today's episode is called The Power of Perspective. And as I said, Michael's going to share some absolute gold today. It's awesome.
Nice to meet you. Great to have me on the show. I appreciate it, and I feel incredibly overdressed. If I knew that we weren't wearing shorts today, I would have
hot pants.
Well, we can get in jocks if you want, if you feel more comfortable. That's up to you.
That's good. So look, guys, obviously if you follow us along the journey so far, you know everything we do is all about mindset. It's all about your mind, your emotions, and how you can create, obviously, a great life. And Michael's got a really, really great story, obviously going through adversity, bringing himself out of that. And I'm not going to really talk about it too much. I'm just going to ask Michael. So Michael, for the people that watch our podcast and stuff like that, if you could share your story, who you are, what you're about, and stuff like that, that'd be amazing.
For sure. Firstly, I appreciate you tuning in, and I think it's a great privilege and a great blessing to be able to be on these types of shows where you can hopefully add value to the listeners and simply just sharing a story that hopefully has them step out of their own shoes and looking at life through somebody else's eyes. And the power of perspective, I think, is such a powerful line. And I love the saying, I cried when I didn't get a new pair of shoes until I saw a boy that had no feet. And I think we all have challenges, we all have pain, we all have suffering. But I think that when we step out of our own shoes and look at life through somebody else's eyes, the mental shift that we can have, the clarity that we can receive, and the impact that we can now have because we're in the right frame of mind can be truly remarkable. And I think that so often in life we wait until it's too late before we decide to change. And the analogy of we wait until we're diagnosed with lung cancer before we think maybe we should stop smoking. We wait until we are diagnosed with diabetes before we get into health and fitness and we focus on what we need to do in our life, or we wait until we lose someone that we love before we tell them that we love them. And I think that it's so important that we don't wait until we're at a point in our life where we have to do something to just survive.
Waiting till the house is on fucking fire.
Yeah, we want to actually do something to have an impact and leave a legacy and live into our legacy whilst we still can. And for me, my journey began at a very young age. I was diagnosed at the age of 11 months with neuroblastoma, stage 4 of the central nervous system. The doctors said there was no chance of survival. I was given a 96% death rate. But I was really fortunate back in those days that my mum, she looked at my life not being 96% empty, but she looked at my life being 4% full. And I think so often in the world that we live in today, we see the bottle being half empty as opposed to half full. And I'm just forever grateful that that's the way she looked at my life. I started chemo on my first birthday. My chemo cycle was 9 days on, 3 days off, 9 days on, 3 days off for years until just before my 4th birthday when the doctor came in and said, Kerry, we're sorry, but the treatment's not working. The tumour has built a resistance. It's taken over half your son's body. We need to go into surgery. We went into surgery. 6 hours later, the doctor said, unfortunately, we didn't get it. There's nothing that we can do now. I was told basically to prepare to say goodbye. And as a mother and a father and having 3 older sisters, I can only imagine the pain that would cause on a family to be in a position where there is no hope.
Yeah, because imagine how your mum would feel. Like, obviously, Dean's got a son, I've got a son and another one on the way. Like, it brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah. I think that without a doubt, hope is one of the most powerful words in the English dictionary. And we all have the ability to instill hope into somebody's life just by lending a hand, sharing a shoulder, listening, sharing an ear. And we had a doctor come in. He was from America. He was trialling a test drug on 25 patients. They had 24 candidates, and they asked my mum whether we wanted to be number 25. They had no idea what the side effects would be. But again, that word, hope, is exactly what that drug instilled into our lives. And we started that drug 9 a.m. Tuesday morning with 24 other families. Within 1 day, we were all transferred from the oncology ward to the burns unit. The after effects of that drug had burnt us from head to toe. They would wrap us up in bandages. They would lie us in baths full of ice, trying to prevent our brains from frying.
Yeah, wow.
But unfortunately,
So what was it about that drug that was doing that?
The body just couldn't cope.
Yep,
It was
gotcha.
trying to burn from the inside out.
Yep.
And unfortunately, within 1 month, 20 out of the 25 kids had passed away.
Wow.
The second month began to burn my internal organs. I lost one of my lungs, my liver and my kidney were destroyed. The muscles around my heart began to deteriorate. And sadly, 24 out of the 25 of them died. And I say to people all around the world that I'm one of the lucky ones, and I never say it because I'm still alive. I say it because I wasn't my mum. And I think I had it so easy because all I had to do is lie in bed and feel the pain. But my mum, she had to make a choice to inject a drug into a child's life that's killed every single person ever taken it. And for me, I'm just so grateful that that she never quit on me. And the day that the doctors came in and said, we have no idea how or why, but you can take your little boy home, was obviously remarkable and truly incredible. But what followed that are the words that still scare my mum today, and that was, your son will never go to school, he will never play sport, he'll be a housebound baby, and if he reaches his teenage years, it'll be a miracle. And my mum come through the curtains, and I made out I didn't hear what the doctor said. I said, what did the doctor say? And she said, oh, the doctors told me that everything was going to be okay. And she let me go to school, she let me play sport. I was lucky enough to achieve some great things in sport. I represented my country at the age of 14 through to 17. I went to school, I graduated high school, I went to college in America playing baseball over there. But as you all know, and as I said earlier, so often we wait until it's too late and we don't appreciate the things that we have until they're gone. And I was living life to the fullest. My world was crazy, and we're playing in front of 10,000 people, and my health had deteriorated rapidly when I was over there. I was only there for 6 months.
Did you notice, or did it kind of just creep up out of nowhere?
I think many people that are listening, and I'm sure you guys too, there's times in your life where you ignore any pain that is brought on because you're loving life and you don't want to acknowledge what might be there.
Yep.
Which can be very scary.
The dragon.
Yeah.
To slay the dragon. No?
So I slid into a base, woke up 3 days later, and my career was over. I never played baseball in America again. I came back to Australia. I got into the corporate world. I worked my way up into a senior executive role. By the time I was 23, 600 staff, 120 banks around Australia and New Zealand. I realised that if I failed fast, failed forward and failed often every single day, I grew. I became a better version of myself. I realised that if I invested in my team so they had my skills, then my role became redundant. And that's exactly what I did, but I climbed the corporate way too quickly. I was driven by the 3 Ps that I think destroy people, and that's power, privileges and possessions. I had to have the $1 million house, all the fancy gear, and it took me until I hit rock bottom in 2010 where my whole world changed. I got really sick. I got bacterial meningitis. I got fluid on the brain. I got Bell's palsy. I had to learn to walk again and talk again. And
wow.
I just, unfortunately, at that time in my life, I decided to quit. And my wife would come into hospital every night and she would say, I love you, and I'd see you in the morning. And I would wait until she left and I would say, I love you and goodbye, because I didn't want to fight anymore. And I thought, how many times does one man need to get kicked before you give me a chance to lead a normal life? And every day I got greater clarity and truly understanding what was important in hospital, because I kept breathing. And I think that whilst ever we're breathing, we have the opportunity to get clarity. And whilst we get clarity, we can really find our purpose and we can start to strive to be the best versions that we possibly can be. And that's when I discovered all I needed to do is master 2 things and my whole world had changed. I needed to master what success was, and I needed to master the gift of giving. And now I understand success is not about how big my house is, it's about how big my heart is. It's about getting out of bed and making an impact on other people's lives, and both you gentlemen get to do that every single day of your life, and I think that is a huge privilege and an honour, but a remarkable responsibility as well. And then the second thing is I needed to master the gift of giving, because for me, for a long time, I always thought the saying was, the more you give, the more you shall receive. But I understand now that the saying should be, the more you give expecting nothing in return, the more you shall receive.
Amen, yes.
And that's when I went out into the world. I decided to walk away from the corporate world. I wanted to make a global impact. I opened a school and an orphanage in Haiti. I got 270 kids in my school. I got 40 kids in my orphanage. And I realised that the quality of one's life is not dictated by how many days we live on this earth, but it's about the impact on those lives that we get to have every day that really determines the amazing life we get to live. Health's been a challenge since then. I was diagnosed again in 2016. They found 4 tumours in my throat. They told me that tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. And I remember saying back to him, that's one thing that we all have in common, because no one's guaranteed tomorrow. And that's what frustrates me so much in the world that we live in today, that so many of us live our life like this life we're living is a dress rehearsal, and we've got another one, but this is it.
We wait too long.
One life.
So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm sure we'll share the remarkable miracle later on in the podcast, which is the one thing that I wanted more than anything in the world, and that was the one thing they said I would never be able to achieve. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to share that later on.
Oh,
yeah, cool.
Man,
Right.
that was emotional. Holy shit!
All right, put your tissues down, ladies and gentlemen. So many things there. So people that come and attend our events, because we do coaching, right? So we work with people that are basically their mindset are out of whack, the emotions are out of whack, they feel lost, they feel stuck. And there's a couple of things I wanted to quickly touch on there and just get you to elaborate on. So the first thing was, like, people that attend our events, right? And we've done feedback calls with people, and like the primary reasons that people do come to the events is, number one, they've got, if I was to put it into, if I was a big picture of the whole thing, I'd say number one, it's because they have things that they want right here, but they feel like they can't do it for whatever internal, external reason. Maybe internally they don't feel like they're good enough, or externally people are saying, you can't do that, what are you talking about? So there's that kind of person there. And then we've got the kind of person that just feels absolutely stuck because of all the things that happened in their past, and they go, all this stuff has happened back here, how could I ever have a brighter future out there? So if you were to kind of talk to those two people there, what would you kind of tell them?
I think the first one is, we must understand that no one in your life is ever going to tell you what you can do. They'll only ever tell you what you can't do.
100%, yes.
So if you choose to listen to that negativity that might surround you, then you're never going to become the best version of yourself.
It's tall poppy syndrome. Like, some people feel so insecure in themselves that, in my opinion, like, instead of trying to build their own building higher, what they do is they go, well, I'll stuff that, I can't do that, so I'm just going to tear down your building. In fact, let's tear down all the buildings around me that are bigger than my building, so that either they're gone or they're the same height as mine.
Yep, I totally agree. I think that, and the way I refer to that is that we should never take criticism from those we would not take advice from. And for me, like, I've been very fortunate to do what I do. I have a video that's had more than 60 million views. I've shared the stage with Richard Branson, with the Dalai Lama. I'm about to go on tour as the closing speaker for Tony Robbins.
Nice.
And it's funny, that whole tall poppy syndrome is insane. I did a TV show a couple of years ago in America called Ridiculousness on MTV.
Oh, really?
And it was amazing. I had a really great time, and I got off the stage and I went out into the, America, and did my thing around there, and people would see me and go, oh wow, you're the guy from MTV, that was amazing, great show. Come back to Australia and I walk down my hometown and they would go, oh, Mr. MTV, too good for people in Cross Harbour now. So
nice.
It's amazing how people want to knock you down, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's amazing. So I think, to your first point, I think it's really about understanding that your value does not decrease based on one's inability to see your worth.
Yes.
And then your second point, which was around...
They feel stuck, like whether it's people outside saying they can't do it, or themselves just feel like they don't have what they need to achieve their goals.
Yeah, and I think you touched on before about they're so focused on the things that have occurred in their past, they forget to focus on what exciting things they have in the future. So there's a couple of points that I'd love to talk about that. Firstly is, so often we focus on how far we still have to go as opposed to how far we've come. I think that's really, really important. The second thing I think is really amazing is, and I learnt this from my kids in Haiti, in my orphanage, these kids have got nothing. They got no iPads, no iPhones, no mum, no dad, no nothing, and they woke up this morning and they thought they had everything. And the reason why they thought they had everything is because they woke up this morning. Which is powerful, right?
That is super powerful.
Amazing. So off the back of that, I really think that it's important, and the saying that I share with people is, your head needs to be where your body's at. Because too often we are so fearful of what might be tomorrow, we're regretful of what could have been yesterday, we forget to focus on what is. And I think that there are only two types of people in the world. There are those that use their pain and suffering as the justification behind why they fail, and there are those that use the exact same pain and suffering as the motivation to succeed.
Well, if you look at, I don't want to get political, but I always end up doing it by accident. But if you look at what's happening out there in the world today,
I leave now.
What's your thoughts on this? Like, I feel like today, and this is obviously perpetuated by the media, but there's a very, very strong victim oppressor narrative, and it's kind of like, and this is called secondary gain. So in coaching, like when we do coaching, we're looking at someone comes in with a primary presenting problem, right? Like I can't make money, or my relationship sucks, or I'm obese and I want to change it. And like as I'm chatting to someone, I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm also trying to hear if there's a secondary gain, if there's something behind what they're saying that's going to keep them stuck. Because like people say they want things, right? They want to change, they want to achieve things. But if they're getting something from their problem, they're never going to get out of it. It's like that whole, I'll be a victim because being a victim actually gives me something. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think people live the pity party.
Yep. Because it feels good.
Yeah.
Pity party.
But it justifies their poor decisions, poor behaviour, and poor outcomes.
Yep.
And if there's any people or any person in the world that is entitled to have a pity party and think their life's not fair, maybe I'm one of those people. You know, I've spent a quarter of my life in hospital. I've been told constantly what I can't do, yet I choose to show them that I can, and I work very hard every day not to prove other people wrong, but more importantly to prove myself right. And I think, you know, my kids in Haiti, you know, there's a young boy in Haiti. I found him living on the streets. He was on the streets for 4 months after he lost his mum, dad, and both his brothers. Mm-hmm. And he was eating out of garbage bins, and now he lives in the orphanage. And he said to me one day, he said, you know, the best part about living here in the orphanage is I get a bowl of rice guaranteed every second day. I said, what's the worst part? He said, oh, where I sleep, I have a tarp over my bed, and when it rains, it leaks and I get soaking wet. He said, but it doesn't matter whether it rains or not, I still get soaking wet because I share a bed with 2 little boys and both of them still pee their pants. Mm-hmm. So reflecting on that boy's life and the challenges that he has faced and continues to face, that is a perfect example of a person in this world that could play the pity card, play the victim card, and never achieve anything in his life.
Yep.
Fast forward now to 2020. He's graduated high school. He got a full ride scholarship to Brazil to study engineering. Yep. And he's almost finished his second year of studies, and he's fallen into the Golden Keys category, which means that he's in the top 10% of university students from around the world. So he's one of the smartest people on the planet. And I ask you at home listening, what's your excuse? You know, why do you choose to live the life that you are living when there's so many opportunities out there in the world for you to live a better life?
What do you reckon it comes down to mostly for most people that are living in this pity party? What does it come down to for them to stay there or to get out of it?
Just making the choice to change.
Choices are a big thing, right? And we all get a choice every second of the day. It's a new chance, new choice.
Yeah. I love that picture of a lion. Or a cat, and he's looking at himself in the mirror, and it's a lion.
It's got a big lion, yeah.
And I really believe that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
And that's that perspective.
And when we start to shift our mindset, shift our perspective, and realise that it is not the adversity in your life that defines you, it is how you deal with it. If you make the choice to deal with it with optimism, resilience, courage, determination, passion, you will achieve some remarkable things. But if you choose to look at your pain and suffering as a why me moment,
yes,
and you blame other people, you make excuses, you're in denial about situations, then you will not actually, you will exist, you will not live.
Yep.
You will survive and not thrive, and that's the choices that we need to make in life.
It's funny, like, as you're talking about that, it took me way back to when I was 18. And like, I'm a big believer, and I'm sure you'll elaborate on this too, but I'm a big believer that life gives us what we need sometimes, not what we want. Because even though I was at the bottom for me and myself there, where I was going to lose my whole life, like I realised I was blaming everyone. And like you asked me, why am I in prison? The cops got me. It's ridiculous. And when I realised, shit, this is all me, and I got to that point, like, enough's enough. And like that's what I was kind of thinking. Because a lot of people that watch our stuff and go to our events, they're at a point where they're not yet at that point where enough's enough. And that's why they keep letting the bullshit perpetuate around them. And I always say, you have to get to that point where enough's enough. Stop waiting. Stop allowing it all to compound and build up. And I got to that point in prison. I was like, this is it. I'm sick of this. This is me. 2 weeks later, letter from the court saying that the woman had gone to the police and said that it was all a lie. 2 weeks after that, I'm released. Like life literally waiting for me to learn my lesson. So what's your thoughts on that kind of thing?
I think a lot of people look to others as a role model to what they can do and replicate and copy, because we strive to idolize people and we follow their behavior and their learnings. But I think that sometimes it's exactly the opposite. You know, my father, for example, he taught me exactly how not to be a dad. He taught me how not to be a husband. And that was as much of a powerful lesson as what it was if he was a great father and I shadowed and mirrored who he was. So I think so often we focus on trying to follow in the footsteps of others' great behaviours, but sometimes the greatest learnings are from the things that we should not have done and what other people have not, what other people have done. And I think to your point, you know, you've hit rock bottom, like I'm sure many people listening. And I think that we need to learn from that. We need to evolve. We need to adapt. We need to embrace change, and we need to strive to want to become the best version of ourselves.
And not hate their rock bottom either.
Yeah, well, it was the greatest lesson and the greatest learning.
So they're not necessarily failures, they're always some sort of learning. So no matter what you're doing in every single situation, there's always some learning you can take from it.
And I'm sure, Dean, you would have heard of this many times, but we learn far more from a loss than we ever do from a win. And I look back on my life, and you know, some of the greatest days was, you know, buying my mum a house. Amazing day. That was the coolest moment of my life. But the games that I've lost in life, professionally and personally, they've taught me far more than any game that I've ever won in life. You know, and I think that, as you said or touched on before, sometimes we need to get to that point in our life where we're really hurting to understand how fortunate we are to have what we have. And I love the saying that through great darkness, that is our discovery moment. We do not discover how unfair our life is, but rather we discover how powerful we have been created. And I think that that's so true.
Wow.
So if you contrast, it's come to my head this end. So if you were to contrast what you were like, how you felt, how you behaved, how you thought before you had that was it bacterial meningitis, and then contrast that with obviously you came out the other side to now, like how do you think and feel differently? How do you operate differently after, I guess, realising, you know, it's about giving and all that kind of thing? Like,
I think beforehand I was filled with ego, arrogance, and materialistic wealth.
Dash of pride.
That I thought needed to be the key component of my life.
Yep.
And I think after you hit rock bottom and you come out the other side, you focus on the simple fact that the quality of one's life is about serving other people. And I needed to understand my daily habits, my daily routine. I needed to implement strategies when I am in those dark days that are going to allow me to get back above the line, get out of that pity party, that victim mentality, and start to want to be the captain. I want to be the pilot of my own journey, my own life.
So for people watching and listening, so obviously there's this watching and listening component to this, for those people that are in rock bottom right now, what do they do? How do they get out of that rock bottom?
Yeah, like I have 3 steps that I try and go through. For me, it's about keeping me alive, not to keep me going.
Yep.
And I think that's a really big differential, because some people want to implement these strategies so that they can be more successful.
Yep.
For me, I need to implement them simply to get out of bed some days. So the 3 steps for me are move, share and help. So the first thing I think is key is to move. As you gentlemen would attest to, I'm sure, getting your body going, doing something.
Yes.
The release of endorphins, etc., is remarkable. And I love sharing the story about Lance Armstrong. He's one of the greatest cyclists of all time, and we all know he had a really great pharmacist, but he was a very good rider. If he falls off his bike, that's it. If he doesn't get back on, the race is over.
Yep.
We all are faced regularly in our lives where we fall off the bike. It's making the choice to get back on that's going to determine your life. The second thing I realised that I must do is I must share, and for that is about. It is not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength when you go and speak to a counsellor, a peer, a colleague, a coach, somebody to get off your chest. And the last thing, which I think is really important, is help. So it's move, share, and help. And helping is remarkable. When you help somebody that is less fortunate than what you are, who can never return the favour, then I think your whole world would change. And my philosophy on life is that we must give without remembering and receive without forgetting. So that's my steps.
That's awesome. Wow. You mentioned that you have to do things to get yourself out of bed. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so each day I try and have a 3-step routine, which is really important for me to get going, especially when I'm on stage. Recently I Wednesday I flew out to America. I landed Wednesday because you land the same day. I flew to Vegas. So Wednesday night I did sound check. Thursday morning I was on stage at 9:30 till 11, and there was just over 15,000 people there. And then I signed books and did all that stuff for a couple of hours afterwards. Then I literally went back to the airport, got on the plane and flew back to Australia because I had something very special I needed to return home to. But if I didn't do my 3 steps, there's no way I could have been able to perform at my optimal level. And my 3 steps are activation, meditation, and appreciation. They're my 3 things. So activation, again, similar to moving. Get out, go for a run, do some sort of exercise. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Whatever it is, just do something. I always, before I walk on stage, I do 50 star jumps, 50 dips, and 50 squats. They just get my mind going. They get me active. They get me ready. You know, that's my pump up stuff. And then the second one is meditation. And for me, for a long time, I thought that people that grew beards, that wore cotton, that burn incense, they were the only people in the world that meditated. But I realize now that some of the highest paid CEOs, some of the pro athletes that I've been working with, they're earning $30 million a year, and that's one thing they all have in common. They all meditate. And I realized that for a long time I thought that if I turn my phone off over night time and then turn it back on in the morning, that is recharging the phone. But it's not. The only way you're going to recharge your phone is if you plug it in. For me, I needed to identify what it is for me that's going to recharge me. And if I go to bed of a night time and I get 7 hours, 8 hours sleep, is that recharging? To a certain degree, but for me, it's really about just surviving. But I don't want to survive, I want to thrive. And what is it that's going to recharge my batteries? And for me, it's understanding the power of meditation, the impact that it can have on my life, the clarity that I can get. Well, they say minimum is 20 minutes, but I think any type of conscious breathing, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, is going to have a positive impact on you. So I try and implement at least 20 minutes. I try and do it before I go on stage, which is it's been remarkable for me and a real recharge. And then the last one is appreciation, and that's a gratitude journal. Whether you do it during meditation, whether you write it before you go to bed, I try and do it first thing every morning because it sets my mind up ready to go. One thing that's really worked for me is when we live above the line and we're in a navigator space, we take ownership, accountability, and responsibility, and that accountability is a really big thing. So for me now, what I do is I share every day with a mate of mine what are the 3 things that I'm truly grateful for. Because if I go to bed and I haven't thought about it, then I haven't consciously or even subconsciously focused on the things that in my life I should be grateful for. So over night time when I go to bed, I text him my 3, and then he returns and shares me with him his 3. So now I go to bed setting myself up for a wonderful, peaceful, enjoyable sleep with gratitude in my heart.
And that's accountability, guys.
And it drives accountability, exactly. Whereas if I wasn't sharing it with a mate, I'd get into bed and I'd go, I haven't done my 3 things.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Don't worry about it. I'll quickly think about them. Yep, great, now I can go to sleep. So it's and it's amazing now, like little things like I was super grateful that I got a park out in front of the post office the other day because I could post on my books. I was super grateful the other day that for the first time in 178 flights last year, Qantas were on time. It was amazing. First time ever. They were on time.
Qantas!
We started grateful.
Well, let's do a little slight plug. Anyway, what is your book called?
The book's called Kids Don't Get Cancer. They buy it from my website. Every cent from my book goes to charity. We've never taken any money from it. We've donated about $350,000 to charity since we've written it, and it's
That's
really
good.
changed my life.
That's a really big call too. Kids don't get cancer.
The reason why the title is that is because I was diagnosed, obviously, as a kid, and my mum said to the doctor, no, that can't be right, kids don't get cancer. Mum told Dad said that can't be right, kids don't get cancer, the flow on. And then after 5 years or however long it was in hospital, my mum said to me, son, one day you're going to go out into this world and you're going to make an impact, and when you've made an impact, I want you to write a book, and it's going to be called Kids Don't Get Cancer.
That's good.
And fast forward 28 years, I wrote the book, and now it's a bestseller in 6 countries around the world. And
that's awesome.
Very blessed.
That's a really good message too. Like, we're really big on labels, that we don't like to label things because it gives you that that level of a place to live up to those bad behaviours.
We identify with our labels.
So that's a really good thing. Basically, you're saying let's not label cancer with what it is. Let's just play with what we've got and basically play with the cards we've been given.
Yeah, appreciate the cards that we've been given. It's funny because someone said to me recently, you've been dealt with some really shit cards, and I'm sure that many of you would agree. But one thing I've realised is, I'm just so grateful that I still have cards. I'm so grateful that I'm still in the game. And I think that to everybody listening, you know, don't spend your life comparing your cards to other people. Be grateful that you still have cards. Be grateful that you're still in the game, and play those cards as effectively as what you can.
I think I just want to backtrack a bit and talk about two things from your three steps in your routine. One is obviously routines, and the second one, I think it was. Have you read the Happiness Hypothesis, Jonathan Haidt?
No.
I think it was in that one there. Anyway, he studied happiness, basically. Awesome book. But I think it's in that one. For those listening, he talks about when you do your gratitude. Don't quote me because it could be a completely different book. It's just a book that I've read. But he talks about when doing your gratitude, and you kind of said it too, like you'd have things that you are regularly grateful for too. Do you find yourself also looking for new things each day to be grateful for?
Yeah, you can't help yourself.
Yep.
It's like buying a new car, and all of a sudden you see a car everywhere.
Yep.
Like right now, pandemic, I don't know when this gets played, but right now there's a pandemic on about the whole coronavirus.
Yep.
And people are stockpiling toilet paper. And I can't help myself. We've got enough toilet paper at home to look after us. But I arrived into this hotel room, and I went to the toilet, and I saw that there was 3 rolls of toilet paper next to the toilet. And a part of me thought, I better take those and put them in my suitcase. I don't know why, but everybody else was doing it, so I thought maybe I'll just get on the bandwagon.
I've had the same thought.
You know, I can't help
Every
it.
day.
And same deal with when you start to be focused on grateful things in your life that are shifting your mindset and allowing you to be the best version. That's you're grateful that you got a green light. You're grateful that the sun's out. You're grateful that it's raining. You're grateful that people are mowing their lawns and it smells good. You know, you start.
It could be the smallest of things too that you could be grateful for, right? As well, make massive differences.
Absolutely.
Do you listen to rap music?
I
Random questions. Where'd that come from?
I've been known in the past of Eminem, put the hat on crooked. I did grow up in Toolmead, so
you did, yes. It's an interesting place.
Well, J. Cole, in one of J. Cole's songs, one of his earlier music, he said, "I came up here to take advantage of everything that y'all take for granted." And like the whole time you were talking to me, I had that like spring in the background, because like there's a lot of things where we almost become obnoxious, I'd say, and we're obnoxiously ungrateful for the things that we've got. Where, as you know, you've started the charity, and for the kids over in Haiti, like they've got nothing. And like I feel like a lot of people who watch or listen to this, it's like it's important just to realize what you've got.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, it's a perspective. I always come back to that damn word. Like we have clean drinking water. We've got a school we can go to. It's like people go, I just don't know what to be grateful. We hear this in events.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to be grateful for. It's like, can you walk?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you see? Yep. Do you have 2 hands? Yep. A couple of things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
It's like people forget what they've got.
I put a post up the other day, and it was a picture of a boy staring at his dad whilst his dad was playing on his phone. And it said, the caption was something like, don't let the things you want make you forget about the things that you have.
Yes.
And I think that's so important. And there's a great little video or like a comic type thing, and it's a picture of like a guy in a car, and he's looking up at a forward drive, and he's like, oh, I wish I had a forward drive. And then the guy in the forward drive looks down and sees a guy driving a Porsche, and he's like, I wish I had a sports car. And the guy, so on and so forth, all the way down until there's a guy on a push bike, and he's looking at a guy on a motorbike saying, I wish I had a motorbike. Then there's a guy walking on the sidewalk, and he's looking at a guy on a bike saying, God, I wish I had a bike. And then there's a guy in a wheelchair looking at a man walking past, and he said, I wish I had legs. I'd be able to go anywhere.
Yep.
And I think it's really important that we think about that stuff, we reflect on that stuff, we understand our value, and we go out and strive to serve other people. I think that's the key to a quality life.
So I'm curious about the Haiti project that you've got over there. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah,
and how
so
people can get involved with that? Because obviously,
yeah.
like, you know, it's a really cool thing. We've sponsored some kids as well.
Yeah. So we started our charity back in 2011 because we found out that there were people donating like $50 to provide drinking water to a boy or girl in Africa, and $45 was getting chewed up in admin fees.
That's
and $5 was going to the kid. So we started our own charity called Frontier Projects, as you guys know and support so beautifully. And that is a charity where every cent gets sent. So we're less than 1% of charities in the world where every dollar goes. And we've been able to create some really cool things. We've got 270 kids at the school, 40 beautiful children now. Sadly, one of our little babies died in December, which was horrific, but we've got 40 beautiful babies now we get to look after, and out of the 40 children at the orphanage, we found out that 16 of them still have parents that are still alive.
Yep.
So we're trying to reintroduce the kids back into their parents' world.
What's the challenges there with that?
The unfortunate thing is that a lot of the parents have no jobs.
Yep.
You imagine, you think your son died, and 9 years later, we knock
Just
on your
pops
door
up.
and say, here's your 10-year-old boy. Like that. That'd mess your head up, right?
Imagine the thoughts.
But then not only are you broken because you've missed 9 years of his life, but unfortunately due to your circumstances you have no job, you have no career, you have no healthcare, you have no house, and you live in a tent, and I say, here's your son, but I'm sorry you can't have him back because you failed.
Yeah, that would suck.
So these parents have got the biggest heart, but they've got nothing to provide for them. So now what we're in the process of doing is building a training and development centre, which is actually helping these parents start micro businesses so that they can go out and make their own money and be able to take care of their own family. So out of the 16, 4 of the kids now live with their parents. We give them care packages once a week to take care of them. But my dream in life when I transitioned out of the corporate world was to make a global impact, and people laughed at me. And I'm very proud of the man that I've become, not because of what I've earned, but for what I've given and the impact that we have given. And these kids, I could never give them what they have given me. I could never return the favour of the life that they have instilled in my heart to understand what life is really all about. And they've taught me what optimism is. They've taught me what resilience is. They've taught me what courage is. And they've certainly demonstrated and shown me so beautifully over the last 8 or 9 years what never ever giving up looks like.
So just quickly, why Haiti?
So I was in America playing, coaching. I was doing a talk actually for the Toronto Blue Jays, and a mate of mine rang and said, I thought he said, do you want to come to Tahiti? I was like, heck yeah. There's been an earthquake there. I was like, sick, bring the board. I'm happy to help out. And then they said, oh, you won't need a board. And I was like, what? And they said, yeah, it's in Haiti. And I was like, Haiti? Where's Haiti? And they said, you're in Miami. It's like an hour and a half away. And I was like, oh, sick. So I got on a plane, went down there, expecting to do something for 10 days and then never go back. And I had no idea that they were going to steal my heart.
Wow.
And I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. And I think I'm a better man because of what they have taught me and given me, not what I have taught them or gave them.
Yeah.
So how can people get involved with that? How can they help
Just
out?
jump on my website, michaelcrossland.com, or go to the website itself, Frontier Projects.
We'll put links up, guys, if you want to check that out. Yeah, obviously we're involved with that. We love that a lot. Anything to do with kids, it's just like, it's really good. Now, let me collect myself. Just got a bit of emotion in my chest. Before you talked about, or you hinted at, you said the one thing. What's that one thing?
Yeah, I may have just dropped it in there. But
It'd be a good one to wrap up on. The one thing.
Yeah, because I'm literally about to get in the car and head to the airport for another event in Sydney. But my one dream and goal in life was to become a dad. You know, I think that to be a parent is the greatest gift. That the greatest gift that God can bestow on any of us is to be a parent, and to be a father was the one thing that I wanted, and that was the one thing they said I could never have because of my health challenges, hence why we were so passionate about our orphanage. But in 2017 we announced to the world that we were
Already got tears in my eyes, mate.
we're expecting a baby, which was just many years of IVF, and finally we got one to take. And so we were due to have a baby the end of February 2018, but as you all know, life doesn't always go according to plan. So in December of 2017, my wife was 29 weeks pregnant, and she had a lot of back pain, and I didn't know what that meant. We went to hospital. We found out that she was 2 centimetres dilated, and
wow, that's very preemie.
we were airlifted to Sydney Hospital, and 4 days later, we had a beautiful little boy named Lachlan James who weighed 2 pounds and was very, very unwell. And they told us to appreciate every second that we have with him. And I said earlier that the quality of one's life is not determined by how many days that we live. It's about what we fit into them. And he was a soldier. He just never quit. And after 4 weeks, they told us that we're allowed to take him back to Coffs Harbour Hospital. We flew back to Coffs, and at 3 o'clock in the morning we got a call. We were informed that our little boy had contracted an illness called sepsis, a blood disease. They gave us 4 days with him. We were airlifted back to Sydney. I remember sitting at his bed and I was just praying, saying, take my house, take everything that I've ever earned. But don't take my little boy. And it's amazing that we wait until we get to a point in our life where we are so desperately in need to actually shift our mindset and our perspective and beginning to understand what's truly important. And he never quit. And like 4 days after we got told he'd be dead in 4 days, we captured his first little smile. And I knew that day that I could finally tell my wife what my mum told me all those years ago. And that was, everything's going to be okay. And now he's 2 years old. He shits more than we can imagine. He eats more than we can imagine. But gents, I got to tell you and tell everybody listening, I love him more than I could ever imagine. So every day's a great day. Every day's a blessing, a bonus, a privilege, and I am so blessed and so grateful to wake up every day and do what I do with a passion to serve and make an impact on other people's lives. And I challenge everybody listening to do something each and every day that your future self will be proud of.
Yes.
It's a good one.
I think we'll end it there. Got my tears in my eyes.
Cheers.
I just want to quickly recap my main takeaways, and if you want to share your main takeaways, Dean, for people listening. So, first of all, thank you so much. I know you have to get out of here.
Thank you.
We've meant to fit this all in, but that was really good. I hope you have enjoyed today's podcast as much as we have. Big takeaway for me is perspective, right? So not just seeing things as they are, but seeing things as they can be and not necessarily being held back by your past. That's one thing I heard there. Number two, the overarching, resounding theme of your life has been don't give up. Keep going. Keep going. Like the only time you're going to stop, it's like when you get in the car, right? The only way the phone's going to stop ringing is if we answer it. But and we'll leave that in there too, it's a bit of humour. But like, you know, not giving up, like the only way you won't get to where you want to go is if you stop walking, right? If you stop moving. And the third thing there is just being grateful for what you have. Stop being blinded by all the things you fucking want and appreciate what you've got. And hey, if you happen to get those things that you want at the same time, great. But don't let yourself feel empty or hollow just because you haven't got them yet.
My quickest one is the phone's not ever guaranteed to ring again, so it's make the most of every second. If you get the chance to wake up, you've also got another chance to make the best of your life. So thanks very much, mate.
My pleasure. Text somebody, tell them how much you care about them, how much they love you, how much you love them.